With that, we have one person who's very, very new to TaxonWorks. Her name is Megan McCullough. And Megan has taken up our offer to present 3 minutes, 1 slide. Megan, we're excited to see. You'll have to tell us who you are though, please.
Okay, I am going to share my screen. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay.
Sounds good.
I did keep it with 1 slide, but I've got animations to make it not too busy, even though I'm aware it's already pretty busy. But I'm Megan McCullough, and I'm a collections manager at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences for the non-molluscan invertebrates unit. And I feel kind of out of place. This seems like a lot of insect people, but the marine representation here with a group called bryozoans. And I don't have enough time to go into background on bryozoans, but I've got a bunch of pictures of them here in the background. And I'll talk a little bit about my research and why I'm interested in using TaxonWorks. We use Specify to database our collections in our unit, which is pretty user-friendly and intuitive, but it takes some customization using XML forms. And it's not very intuitive in terms of like if you want to associate one thing with another, which is what I'm primarily interested in. And the red box down here is just to show what I've done in Specify to connect a parent lot with an associate lot. And this started with this specific lot, which is a lot of scleractinian corals. And these are incrustations of bryozoans, which is what I study. So here you see like a small colony, and then in the background, these are my more zoomed in views. So I'm interested in connecting all of these. And in this one lot, I found 19 species of bryozoans. And that sort of started my whole research project, which was to take lots from our collection and identify bryozoans within them and see, how many associates are in these lots. And in addition, adding to the known biodiversity of the North Carolina southeastern region of the US, because there's a huge knowledge gap in that area for bryozoans. And there's really not that many people that study bryozoans worldwide. I'm like one of 2 or 3 people in the US, so not a lot of people. So I've found, just to give you a little bit of an idea, about 5 bryozoan associates per lot. And I've looked at around 300 lots, up to 26 species of bryozoans in these lots. So I've found about more than 150 distinct taxa, and probably about, more than 5 species, but new species, but I haven't confirmed that with SEM yet. And this is all tracked in a spreadsheet and a Google Doc. And it's been pretty difficult to at least identify things for myself. So I'm hoping to use TaxonWorks not only to track what I'm finding and to help me ID things that I'm not sure about, but also to make observation matrices. That's one of my big concerns. And then kind of like far off in the future is to take information from bryozoa.net, which is sort of like the resource that we use. And it's great, but it also looks like it was created in 2001. So you have to go click through all these links, and they're not connected to each other. And so it's not like a database, it's coded in HTML, I'm assuming. I'm not the one that did it, but I'm very interested in possibly working with more tech savvy bryozoologists and maybe getting a TaxonWorks instance to make an interactive online key to identifying them that can help sort of like not take over bryozoa.net, but be there as an alternative. So I think that's where I'll stop. That's my one slide.
That's awesome use of one slide. I've seen this pattern being used in many times, and that was a great use of that concept animation. Thanks very much, Megan. That was really wonderful. The one thing that struck me right off the bat is you drawing on that jar. That was actually a use case where we wanted to be able to have an interface where we could create multiple individual collection objects in TaxonWorks from a single image just by drawing on them, right? So
Oh my
as you drew a
gosh.
circle, it would stub a collection object, and as you drew another, like a box, it would make another one and another one. And not only that, it would, in TaxonWorks we have something that's called an origin relationship, that we can say that we can relate two objects in like sort of a conceptual objects, and it means that this object can't have existed without that object. So that relationship would automatically be created between your big coral or whatever it was and all of the derivative collection objects that you wanted. So we thought of this 8 or 9 years ago, and it just, that when I saw your slide, I go, oh, we got to do that. That sounds so cool. So yeah.
The whole associates thing is just sort of, it's hard to conceptualize because some of the bryozoans are on the coral, but some of them are on like worm tubes.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be maybe a different association, and some are on maybe mollusks that are in there. And so these are all different, substrates that they can grow on, that it would be great to capture that as well, because at this time I'm just like, this is also in the jar. I'm not saying, I found this at the bottom of the jar where it was floating because it fell off, or it was on, so on and so forth. So there's different levels like container nesting.
Yeah, it's very cool. There's also semantics of living versus non-living things and derivatives of living things. So maybe there's a rock that you have in your container and the rock was never living, and then there's some calcium deposit on the rock and you know what that comes from. So capturing that sort of network of objects, living, non-living, and their what was the biological origin of that? It's a very cool problem to think about. Yeah. Glad to have your feedback. Hope to keep hearing from you. I saw you were poking around quite a bit in the workshop. That's good to hear. Any feedback, we tell folks, positive or negative, is good feedback. So do keep reaching out to us. And at the species file group level in particular, projects that are bespoke, like the website that you listed there, are sometimes targets for our expertise, and maybe we can help you just screen scrape that and get that in quickly. So Debbie, sorry, I'm talking.
Megan, I can't remember, but is the North Carolina Institute where you are, the Natural Sciences, are you part of the ADBC dig-in, the marine invertebrates digitization? Yes. So for everybody here, there was a thematic collection network, TCN, funded under the Accessing Biological Collections Data, the ADBC program from NSF, that some of you know. The subset project is IDIG Bio, and Megan's group is part of that. So digitizing marine invertebrate collections. But right off the bat, what Megan showed and alluded to is that if you have a coral, right, something's living or lived on that coral or in that coral. So you pick up that and you've got all these epibiota, right? Yeah. And so it came up when designing that program of realizing that the software for trying to manage that beyond a text field is still sort of evolving. How do you say, I have this object in my collection, but it has 6, 8, 10 other things associated with it? And of course, TaxonWorks is excellent for talking about associations, right? So hopefully you get to explore that aspect, Megan, more with us.
Yeah, one thing I didn't mention is that specify is, even though I can change it, it doesn't make much sense for me to modify it to be for bryozoans specifically. So I'm interested in using TaxonWorks for my research, because at some point I hope to publish all these species that I've found, since again, there's this huge gap in knowledge. But
there may be a nice synergy between the two platforms, right? If you can keep track and specify of the collection objects, export that to your Darwin core, and then use that as the basis for importing to TaxonWorks.
That's my
And
plan.
yeah, so some source of truth where you can bounce those back and forth and really create a synergy rather than one or the other.
Yeah, at this time, I've got specify connected to itself. So the parent lot and the associate lots, they're in the same collection, but they're related to each other through the same collection. So I had to talk to specify about how to do that.
Cool, neat stuff. Okay.
So we have one more person, Matt.
We got another person last second? Yeah, good. Okay.
So Heidi has said yes to 3 minutes, 1 slide, only she doesn't have a slide. So she's going to tell us about her research.
I have sort of a slide I think I can share.
Cool, let's make sure you can share.
I'm not sure if I can. I don't know, it doesn't look like I can.
You have permissions.
Okay, let me see. How's that?
Yay, perfect.
Are you seeing a beautiful picture of a cockroach?
We are.
Anyway, Tommy just suggested at the last minute that I might want to give a short presentation on what I've been doing for the INHS insect collection for the past just under 2 years, which is working on identifying their Blatodia collection. So it's interesting that I finished with the pin specimens just this week and in the process of packing them up and shipping them back to Illinois. And so I can speak briefly about the process of getting 10 drawers of, well, not all 10 drawers were undetermined. I would say maybe only half of those were undetermined. Getting them identified as close as we could to species, which wasn't possible, and maybe about half a drawer is left unidentified. Some we at least got identified as to new species, and in one case I think a new genus, but it's not my area of Blatodia that I specialize in. So got some new stuff going back for Tommy for him to look at, newly identified, some really cool new specimens that I'm going to be pursuing further in terms of working on finding more and getting some descriptions done. And also, it looks like a new species in the group that I worked on for my dissertation. So we have yet another Arenaviga wandering the planet, which I'm very pleased to learn about. As part of the project, I was getting the entire collection photographed and getting them entered into the INHS database, which is on TaxonWorks. And so I've been able to contribute in that small way into getting the INHS collection digitized. And I think it's just another example of how collections could use this software to great advantage, and also how the software can be accessed by an expert anywhere on the planet and yet be contributing to the centralized collection of that data, in this instance in Champaign-Urbana in Illinois. So that's really all I have to say. I start work on the alcohol portion of the collection next, and so we'll see what we find there. So thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. I'm going to jump in and give the punchline, or not the punchline, but I just want to share one thing. Wonderful little pitch, and this makes me really excited about, and I think Tommy has sort of led the way, and you're a great example, one of the pioneers of new ways of collaborating with the insect collections more directly. I think that these are probably your images, Heidi.
Yes.
If not, yeah. So here's an example of how we got data. There was no import. There was no need to do that. Tommy trusted Heidi. They had a conversation. They explained the process. The loan went out from the museum, and the user got right to the heart of the collection knowledge base and added their images. There's a wonderful set of images. directly in there. So not only does the insect collection benefit, but Heidi benefited from not having to keep track of all of these. She had a nice place to put them all. A wonderful, to me, this is a use case that should be written up in terms of how TaxonWorks can facilitate closing that gap between collections and the research scientists there. I love it, Heidi. Wonderful stuff.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. And I think it's been, for me, an exciting possibility of how experts, again, around the planet can be better utilized. It's been my pleasure to work on this. It's been a slow process. Like you say, taxonomy is not fast, especially in such an opaque group as Blatodia. But again, utilizing the combined efforts of experts through Facebook, through Twitter, through Instagram, it's been something very new, even in the years just since I graduated with my PhD. Really a new, elevated experience of how to database.
And I think now that these new opportunities are here, we also need to, if I can close on a higher level, we need
Matt?
to think about, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, but I've said yes to Jennifer. She can do really quick.
So we got one more. Okay.
We do.
So this is a new opportunity that wasn't possible to really do before in this way, at least in some ways. Now we need to anticipate others contributing this. That means we need to find jobs and dollars for those people contributing in this new way. That's the take-home message. How do we pay these folks for this work? So another slide. Wonderful. I'll stop sharing.
And make sure Jennifer can hang on. I think that I'm host at the moment. Jennifer, I think I went ahead and did it when you asked, but let me check. No, I can't remember.
Yes, it says that I cannot.
Yeah, hold on. I'm getting there. Da-da-da. You can now.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I'll try to be brief. Essentially, I'm not an active user of TaxonWorks yet, but I've been following all of the things I know about it. So the idea is that we are going to use TaxonWorks basically to bring together the community of researchers that are spread all around the world to try to make sense of the classification of this subfamily of weevils, which is the Antimini. There are about 14,000 species described in this group. And we already have a full catalog available that has been compiled for a long time by Nikolai Yunakov. He originally started this in 3i, and it's now part of Catalog of Life. So we have an up-to-date catalog that we are technically in the process of importing all of this information along with all the literature associated with those names into TaxonWorks to be able to start working together, making sense of this massive group, because the tribal classification is problematic for several reasons. And one of them is that both resources in terms of literature, specimens, and people are broadly scattered through time and through space. So the idea is that with TaxonWorks, we will actually bring the community together. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is being able to use the matrices to code morphological characters, and so that we are all speaking the same language, because people in Europe, in New Zealand, and in South America use slightly different terms to refer to the same structure. And since we have at hand specimens from different regions of the world, the interpretation of those terms is also slightly different. So with a tool like this, being able to have depictions of those characters would at least have everyone in the same page in terms of what am I referring to specifically. Is this particular structure, and it looks like this when this is the character state. So that's the kind of conversations that I want to bring to the table whenever we are ready to start working with this. The other reason why I'm really excited about it is that it would be a really great opportunity for training students at the distance. So for example, I'm from Colombia, and when I was an undergrad, I had access to a bunch of specimens, but it was very difficult to make sense of the morphology. So having an expert that knows the morphology, teach like with images directly, and being able to code my own specimens, even if the expert is not around close to me, that would facilitate coding more things, finding new species, trying to identify stuff. So that's the things that we would like to do, at least I would like to do whenever we get to have the project running. And that's it.
Thanks, Jennifer, and thanks for all your support. Jennifer is a big reason many of you are here today. And I look forward to seeing what we can do. For those of you who don't know too, Jennifer has a very awesome paper on insect morphology in press. Jennifer, can I spoil that? Is it okayed?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're doing revisions.
Doing revisions to be published in SysBio with a framework for insect anatomy in an ontology. So very cool stuff, and I really hope we can get back to that integration and helping you do what you need to do in terms of clarifying morphological concepts in TaxonWorks in the long run. So cool stuff.
There is a preprint for that I can share.
That would be wonderful. Yeah. Questions for Jennifer? Davide says, I see a lot of overlapping with the problems in your community, Jennifer, with ichneumoniid community. Yeah, we hope, Jennifer and Davide, that we have to think about what we can facilitate as a species file group to help you create a new nucleus around your passion and what you've expressed and stuff. That's a challenge for us. How do we help you grow your communities in the long term?
And I think part of the thing is that if we manage to have our projects running and start demonstrating the use of the tool, we might be able to pull more people to work with us in these kinds of things.
Yeah, that's one of the hopes. And I think also thinking in the big picture there, keep documenting what does and doesn't work, right? It can be useful to the next generation, right? If we make this experiment and some experiment happens in TaxonWorks and it fails, that's not the end of the world, right? Science has lots of negative results, but being able to remember to communicate that so that the next generation can say, look, they tried this and it didn't really work out. So we need to try it with a new twist, or we need to try something different. So thinking about how do we communicate the process that we're all undergoing right now, I think is kind of important too. Okay, we've had a long morning. Thanks very much. We're going to, we're set for a break as of 15 minutes ago. I want to say maybe we just come back at 12:45 for the business meeting. Yeah, applause. Thank you all. Thanks for your time. Thanks for stepping up in the last little bit there. Those last couple of talks were a really nice capstone.
Wonderful.
Debbie, should we come back in Q2?
Yeah, I think that's good. Everybody needs a 15-minute break for sure.
I saw you had a slide. Maybe we can put that up for people who are coming in, though I don't see too many.
Tommy created that. Yes, lovely.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to just briefly mention so everybody knows is what's coming up is sort of reviewing the status, right, of the species file group and reviewing our collaborations. And Matt is going to lead that. And then we have an afternoon break and then an unconference again like yesterday, where you can decide what you would like to dive into.